We're talking now on Disability Matters to Geraldine Rooney, who is a Development Officer here in Blanchardstown Centre for Independent Living, or BCIL. And Geraldine is involved in a new initiative together with the Disability Federation of Ireland, and it's a toolkit for self-advocacy. Before we get into it, you're very welcome to Disability Matters.
Thanks very much, John.
Great to talk to you. So do you know where the idea for all this came from?
I do. I suppose if you look at BCIL, we started a peer support group around 20 years ago. From that peer support group, it was bringing people together and it was giving people a voice. So we would start on small issues in the local area, such as maybe paths not being dished properly, entrances into shops not being wide enough, just to make people disability aware of what was going on and the need that came from the person with the disability. So sometimes if a person is by themselves, they won't go and complain, they won't give out, they don't feel empowered. So we started by bringing people together, and it started really as a social outlet. And from that then, people became empowered because they're realising that they're not the only one with this problem. Accessible parking can be in the wrong place, and maybe the spaces aren't big enough. So by getting together, they were able to go and actually look for proper spaces to be put in and to be helped out in that area. So that's where it came from. So it's also a way of encouraging people to come together, to have a voice, to own the problem, and then to sort it out. So DFI were aware that we had been doing that work over the years, and they decided that it would be a good idea to have a toolkit for people, that if a new group wanted to set up an access group, or maybe just even a social end, that they might actually have a way of coming together, rather than people saying, I want to do that, but I'm not sure how.
So self-advocacy is a group looking after into issues and trying to fix them themselves, rather than going to an organisation to get them fixed.
It can be.
There's different types of advocacy, isn't there?
There is. Like, you have self-advocacy, which is one person who's speaking up for themselves. Then you have peer advocacy, where you have a whole load of people coming together with the one issue. And then they go. So we'll use an example of the dishing, because that is really the most common one that comes up, where it can be down to bad planning, where you'll have dishing on one side of the road and you'll have dishing on the other. One can be perfectly level, brings you right down if you're a wheelchair user onto the road, but when you go across, the other one may have a lip because it just wasn't dished in properly, and you're bumping in your chair. Sometimes people are carrying stuff on their laps and it falls off. So say you have a number of wheelchair users who come together, then they feel empowered. They call a meeting with the local councillor, and include Fingal in that meeting as well. And they say, look, we'll show you. They do a video and show where, how it's good planning. Then they show the bad, where they can't get up. And they can change things. Fingal are very receptive to that and to the change that comes out of it. So that's just one example.
And what's the idea of how do you get people to get up and do these things and advocate for the group that they're involved in?
Okay, it's like any group, John. You start small. So you start by getting people together. People become friendly with each other. They realise then that these issues are out there. And then they're looking at each other and they go, right, I think we'll tackle that. We're just the support for this group. We call it the D15 disability support groups, but It's open to anyone with a disability. We have pan disability, lots of different types. You encourage people to come together. Then people realise they're not on their own, that it is good. If you make the atmosphere good in your group, you make sure everyone gets a chance to speak. Everyone's opinion is important. If you feel someone is taking over the group, you can find a way of bringing somebody else in. And this is all part of the toolkit, how to do it. Do you know what and to make everybody feel they're contributing, they feel important, their voice is heard.
I suppose the self-advocacy can be helped by the group, isn't it? If they know to have the group to fall back on.
Exactly.
When they find themselves on their own, it gives them that little bit of extra confidence.
Yeah, like people do feel there's power in networking. And even within our group, which has been running for, as I said, coming up to 20 years, we have had numerous people come through. We've had people who come to every meeting. We have people who maybe pop in 3 or 4 times a year. We have people who come if they just have one issue, and when it's sorted, they'll go off again. But they know we're there. Do you know what I mean? Which is good. Now, we found as well that with our group as well, we like to link in with other groups. So CRC are part of actually this toolkit as well. We link in with them. Then you have a greater voice.
Okay.
And we're hoping to have another meeting coming up where we're hoping to invite other groups in the area to come in. So say like Praxis. So we will be covering autism, physical disability, as I said, pan disability.
If you have a group who have met, they've got to self-advocate and they don't know where to go to solve an issue, what's the best line of questioning?
Okay, well, the strength of the group is that when they come together, they realise, like, okay, if it's a problem in planning, it's the council. If it's a problem in the shopping centre, you change, say, I'm using the shopping centre as an example, you would change your tactics. For a long time, the shopping centre didn't have a change in places. So they campaigned into the shopping centre about getting a change of changing places area. How they did that was they changed the way they campaigned and sold it, for want of a word, to the shopping centre that they would make much more money if they had a change in places in. And that's fine. That was great. It worked, and they got one in. Now, with Fingal, how we sold it was that it's a right of every person under the UNCRPD to have facilities like that. So they changed their tactics, and they agreed that any new build in Fingal will have a change in places. It's the power of the people coming together that can change things. Fab.
And what about things like paths and all that, street furniture, all that type of stuff? Council?
Brilliant. Ongoing, and it's always going to be ongoing. And especially, I mean, we do laugh and say of the peer support group in Blanchardstown, we used to laugh and say that Tidy Towns was our nemesis because they were making the place look beautiful, but sometimes they didn't realise they were blocking place. But we talked to them, and now they're a lot more friendly, which is good.
So if you have a group who want to go and self-advocate on issues, how do they get started?
As I said, it usually starts over a cup of tea, like any good conversation. You're not there to kind of jump in and, change the world straight. It doesn't happen like that. It comes together slowly, and it usually comes together when someone has an issue, and then they realise that they're not the only one with that issue, and that's how it starts.
Very good. And it's basically sit down, get the issue on the table, try and find out where to bring it, and get it sorted.
Exactly. And then you have to make sure that you do follow through. Because sometimes you'll find that groups come together, and even within their own, we can get very, I suppose the word is relaxed, where you'll have an issue and it just keeps coming up in conversation, but it's not really being tackled. Do you know what I mean? So you do have to, and that's where I suppose BCIL will come in, that when we have the people, this group is leader-led, it's led by people with disabilities, that we make sure it's happening. That there's somebody in the background writing the letters, there's somebody in the background arranging the appointments, that it is moving. Might move very slowly, but it is moving.
What about cars on the footpath? You still see that a lot around the place, don't you?
We do, like you notice that everywhere. And I know they have big operations even within the police for, parking on the thing, but it just happens. And now, how we would tackle that was a couple of times we've been out and we've seen cars parked in the path, and we've approached people and said it to them, and you'll have, say, like 70% of the people would say, oh my God, I never even thought, I'm sorry. You'll probably, and then the other, say 20% will go, all right, I won't do it again, and then they might, and then you have 10% who just look at you. So you do what you do, but you're not afraid to have that empowerment to speak up, and to keep, the thing is, I suppose everything is like a wheel, and it goes around, so you just keep working on the issues and you do your best, and if you're changing little bits, it's great.
Correct, Does UNCRPD come into play when we're talking about self-advocacy?
Of course it does. Everything is under the UNCRPD, which are the rights of people with disabilities, and they are universal rights. So, so for people to have that understanding of themselves, that this is not, they're not looking for, the charity model. It's a right of people that they can come together and discuss that there should be access. There should be, even in housing, there's still ongoing issues under Part M of the building regulations and very different aspects, but people are working on them, and it's good to hear the voice, and the best voice you can hear is of the lived experience.
If you have a group and they want to self-advocate, they have their issue, they've sat down and they don't know how to proceed.
Okay, well then, it's really, the wisdom always nearly comes from the group. You can get people in to talk, like when it's actually anything to do with planning or access, we would look for the access officer for Fingal who would come in, because they have the power. So you bring in whoever you think has the power. I mean, I know we're using like access and, PATs and things as a main, but that is the easiest one to show you how it can work, by contacting someone in Fingal, getting them out to listen to you, getting them out to talk, and having those changes made.
DFI launched the Toolkit, which contains an A to Z of setting yourself up for. Is the Toolkit widely available? Is it available on our website?
It is available now. It's available to DFI members.
Okay.
So all the information that's in that toolkit is free, and it's there to download. What happens is you send an email to DFI and you can then download it. They are, I'd say, probably as it goes on, it will change and then it'll open up to more people. But for a moment, it's for their members who are in the hundreds.
And that's for obvious members, or obvious reasons, because somebody may want to add to it or subtract from it. Or
exactly. Like the toolkit was roughly nearly 2 years coming together. There was a lot of work from different organisations. You had CRC, you had Caroline Winstanley, Dr. Caroline Winstanley from CRC, you had a number of people from rehab, you had the likes of ourselves. It was a smaller organisation, so it was really widespread, and it was very good, and then, all of the hints and tips came from people who actually have disabilities and who have the lived experience.
And you say smaller organisations, but equally as important.
Very, because we're at the coalface of disability. So we're the ones who are living in the community. We're helping people. Our organisation, as you know, we would class ourselves as a disabled persons organisation, because it's very much based on the needs, and all our services have come from people with disabilities. Mm-hmm. Anything that we do, it's their needs and wants, and that's where we are. We've always been like that. As you know, we're 30 years and it's still ongoing, and that's where it comes from. It's not top down, it's bottom up. It's a feeding of both ways in the organisation.
It's actually a very interesting booklet.
It's excellent. It's well put together. Full
of information.
Exactly, yeah.
And I could see where if I was part of a group and I needed some help, this would be the place to go. So if it comes out to the public, by all means get on the website, dfi.ie, and have a look. And if not, contact an organisation who are part of DFI and they'll download it for you.
Exactly, because I think every organisation will help any group in the area who wish to set up as an advocacy group.
Yeah, thanks for coming on Disability Matters.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Now on Disability Matters, we're talking to two lovely ladies from Blanchardstown Centre for Independent Living, and they're two who are kind of the focal points for people who want to use our service. You're very welcome to the show, Claire and Freda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I might start first with Claire. You might tell us a bit about your time here and the different jobs you've done. How long are you here and so on?
So I came to BCIL about 3 years ago. Before that, I was in a retail management background for years, and I'd kind of had enough of that. It's very soul destroying. So I wanted to work in an office job, so I applied here and I got the job here. And I started off kind of in the office. I started off with Freda actually, so she was kind of showing me the ropes. She'd started a few months before me, and then I kind of transitioned kind of just to be out on the reception. So I work out on the reception with a lot of different people.
And did you ever work in that like this before?
No, I would have been, I came from a management background in retail, so yeah, it wouldn't have really been office based. I would have done office work, but it wouldn't have been to this scale. Like,
what do you think?
I love it. I love dealing with. You get a lot of calls during the day from different clients, and
so we get on to them now.
Yeah.
The type of call you get is generally what?
It could be regular clients. They might be ringing up looking for transport, looking to go to different appointments. They might be looking for information. They might be looking to cancel an appointment. So you'd deal with a lot of that. Might be dealing with new clients. So people ringing up asking about the services, asking, what we do, if they could come on board. That's kind of then where Freda comes in with assessments. We'd be dealing with the van drivers a lot. So with pickups and drop-offs, we would be the ones to kind of talk to the clients, then talk to the drivers, kind of saying such a person's ready to be collected, and then we deal with different organisations in the area. So we'd be kind of linking in with different organisations, either about the clients or about maybe services they have that we could refer the clients onto.
Ever get a bad call?
I wouldn't call it a bad call, maybe a challenging call, but you just deal with it, you know. Yeah.
Nice and calm.
Of course, you resolve every call you get.
And they always come back in a nice way.
Of course, they always end up laughing.
It's a busy office and it's a busy reception.
It is, yeah.
There are calls all day, every day.
Yeah.
For people out there who don't know who we are and what we do, we provide services for people with disabilities in the Dublin 15 area. We have a transport service, a home support service, which are the two we're talking about today, and they're probably the most important. So we move on to Freda now. Freda, when did you start here, and had you any experience going into it?
I started just before Claire. I had worked in Debenhams, and during the COVID, the company went into liquidation. So I ended up doing a course, an adult education course, and one of the tutors said there was a job going in BCIL. Would I be interested? So I went for the interview, and no, it was completely different to what I would have been used to.
Yeah.
But I didn't really want to go back to retail because we had a terrible bad experience with losing our jobs after I was there 20 years. Yeah. So when I started in BCIL, at the start, I kind of found it challenging.
Well, you were thrown into the busiest role in
I was, yeah.
It's definitely challenging.
Yeah, because I would be the home support coordinator. So the girl that was running it was coming up to retirement, and her name was Marion. She was very good. She put me through the ropes.
But you're not too bad yourself now.
Well, I learned from the best. So I actually, at the start, I found it very daunting. Yeah. But then I got into it and I really love it now. So,
what's the most common requirement people have when they ring up about home help?
Most of it really is people that are getting older because their disability, their disability would be mobility, because and it's trying to get them to their hospital appointments. That's really the main thing. Now, we also do a social side of it as well, where we would, if people want to go maybe up to do a little bit of shopping. Yeah. So it's not all about hospital appointments, and we bring the elderly as well to the day centres, and we also have young adults as well that we bring to their, they go to day centres as well.
It's a busy role.
It's very busy.
It's a very busy service. And when you think of, like the people using, a lot of the people using the service were born during the 60s, like myself, when people have big families. And they're still here right now, and they're coming towards middle to old age, and they're getting a little bit more problems, a little bit weaker, more feeble, and they need the service.
Well, they do, because a lot of it as well, like we've gone out to people that have been suffering with cancer, and a lot of them weren't going to their appointments because basically they couldn't afford taxis, which was terrible. Like,
that's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah. So basically what we do is, we try to help as many as we can. Since I've started now, it has grown very big. So we are trying to get more transport, but sometimes we have to decline some of the new clients because we physically can't bring them because we're too busy.
So if we take it one by one, we have a transport service which is 3 vans plus a driver for hire with a small charge. Am I right?
Yeah, well, it's really, we call it a donation.
Right.
Because, to be honest with you, it's basically, we're a non-profitable organisation, so it's just to basically keep the vans on the road.
Yeah.
Because everything has gone so expensive.
Yeah.
We do get some funding from the HSE, but in the last, I think it's 6 years now, we haven't had a rise, and everything has gone up. So
It's actually a lot longer.
yeah, it's gone up so much, the diesel, the petrol. So obviously the vans are in use a lot, so there's a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah.
And
It's a very busy service.
it is a very busy service, and we've had 2 major problems with 2 of the vans, so that has set us back as well. So we need to be able
towards
to.
the end, yeah.
Yeah. So we have.
They're old vans now.
Yeah. So, you know, the parts are very costly. So the donations that we receive are basically we put towards any of the repairs of the vans.
So let's go on then to home support. What's that about?
Home support is, we're actually struggling at the minute to get people for home support, but we have the people that we have a great team, and basically they go out to people's houses, and it's more for, it's more like an informal kind of interaction. It's really for company more than anything, because we kind of find like people living on their own, they just want to have a little chat. So we can't be seen to do the work of the other home care services. Like we wouldn't be able to do, we're not allowed to do personal care.
Right, yeah.
But the service that we do give is very important, because we find when we go out to these houses, a lot of people, they're very lonely, and all they want is a little bit of company.
That's the big thing, isn't it?
So the girls that we have on board, we've 2 girls, Joanna and Margaret, and they're brilliant at what they do. And the feedback that we get from the clients is just amazing. They're delighted with the service.
We also do a bit of DIY.
Yes, we have 2 lads, Austin and Seamus, and basically like that, it's for people that are maybe living on their own, and they've got on in age and they can't manage maybe to cut the grass. So it's kind of light maintenance work. So they would go out, and maybe if someone wanted a shelf hung, or as I said, they do like gardening, they might do a bit of weeding and things like that. So usually now in the summer we start getting very busy, because we get a lot of calls in for people wanting their grass cut and things like that.
And we have to be very grateful to PayPal, who recently came in with a lot of new equipment for that purpose.
Yeah. Actually, the girl that runs it, Antoinette, she's hoping to down the road get a van specifically for that, like a kind of a care and repair. And it'll put all that the stuff that PayPal gave us to use.
And Claire, it's a busy role you do too.
Yeah.
You're also a mother, and you've been recently a second mother, so to speak.
Yeah.
You've had a second baby. How do you balance that with work?
I suppose like anything else, you just kind of...
Just get on with it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. You know, it's hard, but, you know, my kids are very familiar with this place as well.
Already, very good.
My son's crash is downstairs, and the first thing he asks when I pick him up is, can I go up to your job? He loves it up here, you know. They're very welcoming in here.
And how long do you hope to stay here?
Well, you know, when my time is finished here, I definitely stay on as a volunteer.
Brilliant.
I'd like to say it's one of the best places I've worked, but it's not. It is the best place I've worked.
Right.
You know, and I've worked a lot of places in my life. Some great, some bad, but this place is, you know, it's the people who work here are just like no one else. You know, they do everything for you, and they're very supportive, and they're genuine, and they just go above and beyond for the clients and stuff. And
we're actually grateful that you're here, because it's fantastic service that and you do it in such a nice way. So we're very, glad to have you there. And Freda is here.
I'm 3 years here.
And you're going to stay here?
I will.
Very good.
Like I said, like what Claire said, it's one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever done. Because you kind of feel like when you leave at the end of the day that you've, even by ringing someone, you've helped someone a little bit, and it's a great feeling. So, like, I would probably be coming near retirement age, but like that, I'd like to stay on, maybe as a volunteer.
Very good. I think that's what a lot of people say.
Yeah.
They get a sense of belonging here,
Yeah.
belonging to a service that is really helpful to people, and they want to stay here,
Yeah.
whether they're working or whether they're volunteering. So that's it. It's great to have you both in. Great to have you chatting about what you do, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
It's been
you.
a pleasure to have you on Disability Matters.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.